Live here.
Live!
But we don't have to necessarily know what that means.
What's the someday of blank?
I don't
there's
know
a
that we
reason
want to-
this story happens now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the movie writes itself.
Ooh.
Well,
I'm still streaming. How do I stop streaming? No! Hello.
oh,
Hello, sausage.
what?
Hello, sausage.
Yeah. You and your Britishisms.
Britishisms.
Britishisms. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 63 of Ben and Jake Write a Movie. That movie tentatively titled, working title of, Hellfire.
Hellfire! Dun-dun-dun!
I like it. It's fun. Yeah. So here we are.
Here we are.
And today, woohoo!
Yes.
Thursday,
The 9th of February, the 9th? Yes, the 9th.
Thursday, the 9th of February, 2:38
Yep.
p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Pacific Standard Time. I wanted to talk about something business related, career related, and just kind of life related, based on a conversation that we were having this morning. And I won't go into the full details of it, but I found it to be interesting and enlightening, and I think it's important for.
Sure. Just don't embarrass me.
No, I won't embarrass you. So Ben took out his tiny
Actually,
his sausage. We were talking this morning about, and again, I won't fully go into details of it, but about maintaining, and we've talked a little bit about this, but maintaining enthusiasm for your career as time goes on. I think Ben and I, in our own ways, were feeling a bit kind of, again, it's not unsatisfied, but maybe that is a word. Maybe that is a word that, a bit like, we achieved a level of success last year. Our first movie was made, or our first movie was released. It was made the previous, and we've just been kind of, I think, going, what's the real great thing that we're working towards next? Another movie getting made? Well, yeah. And also somehow now that's happened, it doesn't almost feel as satisfying. It's a strange experience, isn't it?
I think the topic that you're talking about, and it's a good one, is as a screenwriter, what does a career look like?
Yeah.
And the realities of the kind of peaks and valleys and the feasts and famines of screenwriting. And that doesn't just mean financial feasts and famines, peaks and valleys. It also means creative peaks and valleys. It also means enthusiasm, excitement, passion. It's an interesting field, anything creative, screenwriting, anything else, because you can't just go to work and just do your job and clock out and collect your paycheck.
Right.
It requires a level of personal commitment.
Yeah.
And
emotional engagement.
Yeah. And entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And passion and persistence to keep things going.
Yeah.
There's no just, somebody told me what to do, and so I'm doing it. Now, there is a difference between, and there always will be, being a staff writer in TV versus being a screenwriter.
Yeah.
If you're staffed on a show, you do have someone telling you daily, hey, this is what we need. This is what we need to do. We have a schedule. This is how many episodes we're putting out. This is what's going on. And there's much more structure to it.
Yeah.
As a screenwriter, especially now, the odds of getting a job are very small.
Very small.
And so the career and the profession itself is about us having to create content all the time.
Yeah.
And us having to find the passion to continue to do that.
Yeah.
And, for a long time, that was able to be done through big benchmark goals.
Right.
It
Here's
was,
the next thing that we're working
hey,
towards.
we need to write our asses off because we need a manager. We need to write our asses off because we want to get an agent. We need to write our asses off because we want to sell our first screenplay. We've sold our first screenplay. We need to write our asses off so that we can actually turn that sale into a career.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a career. Now we need to write our asses off so that we can fucking get something made and be produced screenwriters. Okay, we've produced screenwriters now. What is the next benchmark?
And it's you know, one could argue that it is now you've got to maintain your place in that career.
Yeah.
And that is
a level
and should be enough. And yet, of course, because it doesn't feel like a benchmark, it just feels like a maintenance.
Right. And also because it's a lot harder to have a goal that is so vague.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, and one of the things we talked about is you can have a lot of passion for a specific idea or a specific project. Totally. And that's great. And we were talking about a movie this morning. I love it.
Right.
It's super fun.
I loved our session this morning.
But that doesn't necessarily sustain your perseverance.
Yeah.
Even when you hit a wall, even when you realize that the idea you've been working on sucks, even when you realize that, oh, that thing that I loved isn't going to sell, and there has to be persistence and perseverance. I think, it's screenwriting as a career is a long haul.
Yeah.
And everybody's journey is different. And you'll always hear the story of the guy who came in and sold a big screenplay and has worked since he was 22 and now lives in the giant mansion in Bel Air. The number of screenwriters, just screenwriters, who have that life is very small.
Right.
And most of us working screenwriters are mostly working for free. We're mostly hustling.
Yeah.
We're mostly acting as salesmen.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that's really part of, I somehow felt or thought that after The Princess was made, we were going to have achieved a level of success whereby we weren't going to have to hustle as much.
Yeah.
I think whether that was an unspoken belief, or that we would, and now we are in, I think, the next tier of screenwriters.
Officially produced screenwriting team.
Screenwriters is a big deal. But we can't stop hustling.
No.
You are on this path that you have to keep walking.
And it may never stop.
Going to be hard.
It may never stop.
Yeah. And so And so I think that's what I've been feeling, just kind of going, oh, I thought I was on this treadmill and I was going, 9 miles an hour on the treadmill, I was doing a good run. And I thought I was gonna be able to, knock the speed down a little bit because it was gonna be a bit easier and still be able to maintain the thing that we did. But actually, and again, I do think it's partly the state of the business at the moment, but the business has always
been hard.
Always been hard.
Anytime I hear a rep or a producer say, oh, it's harder than it's ever been out there, I just kind of roll my eyes.
Yeah, because I've never found it to be easy.
Yeah, like what world have you lived in for the last 20 years?
Of one time over the last 9 years, perhaps when we had just sold Winter's Night and we were new and we had heat and we had a series of sales, like we set up 5 projects, including Winter's Night, in the space of those first 2 years.
Yeah, we were on a streak, but that wasn't that I wouldn't say that was easy.
No,
I
I
think
wouldn't say it
that,
was easy either. No.
and it's interesting because I was looking back at that recently, because a lot of those were pitches, and we've talked quite a bit about
Yeah.
that on this
Of course.
show.
Yeah.
And I realized that, look, we for a very short period of time, we sold a very high profile spec, and then we batted 1,000, and it was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, this is every single thing we took out, we sold. It was amazing.
Yeah. It was amazing.
But we also had most of those sales, well, 3 of them anyways, three including Winter's Night, went to the same studio.
They did.
And 2 of them were television projects based on IP that they were actively looking for a writer
Yes.
for.
Yeah.
And they weren't like super high profile. They were good projects, but they weren't like, we're looking for the next Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And I think that selling a pitch, which we're running into this world now where everybody's saying how hard it is to sell a pitch, I realized that TV has always been pitch based, and it will continue to be pitch based, but now they want more assurances. If you are no longer, if you're new, they want someone in the package that's been around to kind of like make them feel comfortable. That same aspect existed when we were pitching features, which was we would sell pitches to people who knew us well enough to feel comfortable that we could deliver on those pitches.
Totally. Yes.
Now, for whatever reason, we ended up selling a lot of things to the same people consistently, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then those people either move on, or they decide they no longer want to do development, or they do whatever. And then you have to prove yourself
again
to a new group of people.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is what I started to realize, is that the hustle that you're talking about is because the person that you're trying to sell your project to has to believe that you can deliver. And if they've never worked with you before, how do they know?
Yeah.
How do they know? Unless you're a big name that's delivered all over town. Okay, fine. You've had one movie produced. Great. That's wonderful.
Right.
How do I know if I hire you today that you could do the same thing on this script?
Yeah.
And if they're not someone that's worked with you before, it's a gamble for them. And that gamble in today's day and age is now an even bigger gamble because, and we've talked about this before as well, and I just actually read an article literally this morning in Hollywood Reporter talking about Disney Plus and talking about streamers. And there was another article in Deadline about the WGA also talking about streamers and how this is the consistent message across the board that studios in general and their shareholders, which is the most important person that a studio cares about now, is the shareholder. There was a time in which the success of a big movie was important. There was a time then in which the growth of your streamer was important. The more subscribers you had, shareholders were happy because eventually you would achieve profitability. What has happened is shareholders have seen the studios rack up enormous amounts of debt, trying to create all this content so that they could get subscribers.
Right.
But shareholders decided somehow that growth was no longer their top priority. Now their top priority is profitability.
Right.
And so they don't care how many subscribers you have. They care how much money you're making.
Yeah.
Which was always where it was going to go.
You
can't, all the studios being bought up by conglomerates that are beholden to shareholders, eventually it was going to get down to the bottom line. People could only be excited about the textile growth aspect for so long before they went to, well, I don't like this red ink on your balance sheet.
Yeah.
So what these articles very specifically were talking about the consolidation of content creation, the laying off of massive amounts of employees. Disney just announcing 7,000
7,000.
people getting laid off.
Yeah, yeah,
The cutting of shows on streamers to save on residual payments, which is a huge thing at the moment,
huge thing
across multiple platforms.
Yeah.
And the increasing of ad-based streaming services to create more revenue.
Yeah.
I sidetracked into this completely other topic, but
Yeah.
basically the bottom line is that the business has changed to a certain degree, but you have to find a way to keep that passion going, even in an ever-changing environment where pitches, there aren't people that are necessarily willing to take chances on paying you to write an idea.
And that's it. And again, I think back to early episodes when we were talking about the fact that you as a screenwriter, while it's a deeply creative business and it's very, very important to be creatively, it's essential to be creatively engaged and love what you're doing. There is also this business side of show business. And you are constantly straddling that thing between, what do I really want to write and what's going to get made out there in the world. And that's why we're constantly trying to find them, come up with the ideas of the movies that will get made, that we also really love.
Sure.
And absolutely, we've had times where there was a project a couple of years ago. I was like, it's this thing, it's this meets this, and you were like, yeah, it's good, but where does that get made? Who makes that for the price that would be required to that? Because what you're pitching is $150 million movie. And who makes that? And I go, but I like the movie. And you're like, oh, yeah, I like it too. And also, there are practicalities associated with all that stuff. But I want to write it. Fine, write it. Where are you going to sell it? Those things.
Well, and the bring it back also to what you were saying in terms of, okay, you get to a certain point where you're now produced writers, and you get to a certain point where, we've got great agents and great managers and great, people have out in the business have worked with us, not at every studio, but at a few. And yet that thing of, well, okay, so now we need to stay relevant as produced screenwriters. Well, part of that is needing to keep selling things. And now that we've had one thing made, needing to get another thing made. And that's where the business side starts to become really challenging, because just putting another script out into the world that people like reading isn't enough anymore.
I know.
We can't achieve that next benchmark just by getting a new agent.
Absolutely.
Like, that's not going to be the next thing. The next thing needs to be another movie made. And that movie then needs to be makeable.
Yes. I suppose where having now been produced helps us in the way that the market is at the moment is we become somewhat more of a known commodity, because when it comes to packaging, our reps are able to say, here's the thing they wrote, it got made,
Yes.
Which I think helps.
And people, ultimately, as a writer, you need people to vouch for you. Because you won't have worked for every executive you go in to meet, and you won't have worked for every person that, it's changing all the time.
Yeah.
So
speaking of which, you expertly segued. I'm not sure if you saw the question by Tommy, but that is a question that somewhat relates to what Tommy Lee just asked. Which you ever had a situation where execs/producers who haven't worked with you called an exec/producer who has worked with you, as in a reference check to how you take notes, etc.?
I wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know.
No one's ever told us.
I haven't heard, so-and-so called me today, I sung your praises.
No. But I would say that people do talk.
People do talk.
And people do ask.
Yeah.
And I would say that through representation will find out the experience that a producer or an executive had working with you.
Yeah.
And then they will hopefully then use that hopefully positive feedback
Yeah.
to sell you to another said producer. Be like, hey, the guys worked with Toby at Original. He loved working with them. You should call him. They'd be great to work with you guys on something.
Yeah.
There is a constant feedback of just talking. I mean, it's, as we've said many, many, many times, it's a relationship-based business.
Right.
If you become the kind of person who is difficult to work with, you better believe that people, when they talk to a producer that you worked with and say, hey, how was it working with those guys? I'm thinking of maybe doing something with them. And they go, ooh,
Yeah.
that was tough. Well, you just lost that job.
Absolutely. If it's coming down to moments like that of going, oh, I'm not sure if these guys are the guys.
And everybody's having lunch with everyone and Zooming with everyone, especially producers with studio execs.
Mm-hmm.
And of course they ask.
Yeah.
Of course they ask. I mean, whether it's a director thinking of working with a producer thinking of working with another writer, a studio exec thinking of hiring a writer who has previously worked with a colleague of theirs. I mean, there's so many different ways around that you need to have people who sing your praises when asked. I don't think people I doubt, unless it's a really big thing where they're like really nervous about you, I can't imagine them calling up like a reference check.
I like them. I like this person. I like this writer. I can see they've worked with them over there. Right. Let me just see. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I mean, look, I'll tell you this much. We have, with attachments on our projects,
100%. So we had a situation where, I won't mention any names or projects, where we were unsure of an attachment, and we found a fellow writer who had worked with said attachment and got the lowdown.
We had another situation with an attachment where we had our reps do some back channeling to find out how people thought about this person.
Absolutely right.
We've had examples where, and writers talk, and we've had plenty of writers tell us horror stories about producers they've worked with, and we remember those things.
Absolutely, yeah. So, we've had people reach out to us saying, hey, I've got a meeting over at so-and-so. What are they like to work with?
So I can't imagine that the same thing doesn't happen in all the other aspects of this business.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's the same thing as like getting a reference to it. I mean, honestly, like I just saw a new doctor and it was a friend of mine. I called up my, hey, who do you use for this person? Oh, I like this person. You go to, I mean, that's the way the world works, right?
Right.
So anyway.
But again, just kind of circling back to that kind of.
Yeah, circle back.
Opening topic. I think
maintaining passion
is going to be something that you are going to have to find your own way of doing. I think at the moment, what we decided on today was the thing we're really excited about, the thing that we love more than anything else in the world with the Princess. It wasn't the release, wasn't the sale. It was going to set. And actually, the phrase I like in various self-development books, particularly when it comes to wealth, is given a strong enough why, a man is able to endure almost anyhow.
Yeah.
I forget it's from a very famous book. I forget the name of the writer. It's about Jewish concentration camp, I think. But that's it. It's like, what is your why? What is our why? And the why this morning has become we need
getting back to set.
Yeah.
There's two things I want to say on this topic before we move on. The first is in terms of keeping the passion alive, and this is for people who are at earlier stages in your career where, man, it's fucking hard. And I just want to say, like, for anyone who doesn't know my personal biography, because I don't think we ever did like an episode where we talked about like our stories.
Yeah.
But I sold my first screenplay in 2004, and it wasn't until 2014 that I sold my next screenplay.
Right.
There were lots of things that happened in between them, life, work related, but like, you have to, when you're a young and hopefully hungry writer, just keep that dream alive. And those benchmarks are really important.
Mhm.
Knowing what your next goal is
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah.
We've entered into a different era now where that benchmark is less clear. And I think that's
Mm.
what was hard for us
Yeah.
to work through, is just
Yeah.
going, well, you have to be ambitious as a screenwriter. This is not a career for someone who just wants to like hang out. This
Yeah.
is a career for someone who wants to like make shit happen. And
Totally.
so without a clear goal of going, I'm going to make this shit happen,
Mhm.
there's less fire in your belly.
Yeah.
And, for, it's 2023. So for
Yeah.
19 years, for me anyways, there
Yeah.
was this fire in my belly going, I'm going to have a studio movie, like a real, like, because my first movie was a little $2 million straight to DVD movie. I want a real movie made. And so that keeps you going. That
Yeah.
ambition
That
keeps you
dream, that
going.
goal. Yeah, for sure.
When you're now at this stage in our career, it's about identifying what is that next thing.
Mhm.
What is that next thing that
Yeah.
keeps you going?
Totally.
And the second thing that I want to say on that directly ties to that. And so, when you were saying that it's about being on set, for me, like, look, we love writing, otherwise we wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
We love coming up with ideas. We love fleshing out these ideas. If anyone's watched the last 62 episodes, you know that we get passionate about those ideas. But we got to go to Bulgaria where the princess
Yeah.
was shot, and to go there and see all the people
Yeah.
who have taken what started as your idea and either made it their own, have gotten jobs or paying like their livelihoods off of
Mhm.
your idea,
Yeah.
to see what they've created and how it's just come to life.
Yeah.
That was so exhilarating in a way that just writing the idea and having it in your imagination only goes so far.
Absolutely right.
And that having the moment where there's hundreds of people, I mean, literally hundreds of people,
Yeah. A village of
working
people.
to
Yeah.
make that idea real.
Yep.
That was fucking cool.
It was absolutely really fucking cool.
And I think really is
that's what we're working towards again.
That's what we're working towards again.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a challenge because, like you said, it's not really a new benchmark.
No, it's not.
Been there.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I do think there will come a point where
If I were going to add another benchmark, I would really love a television show that we created to get me. That would be the next thing that I'd also really like to have happen. And of course, we are about to take a TV show out. We're about to pitch it in.
We are. But you know what's interesting about that?
What is, Ben?
So this is just an interesting segue into I'd love to have a television show made, which is absolutely something I'd love to have too. But we made a conscious choice about a year and a half ago to say that rather than focus completely 50-50 on TV and features, which is what the majority of our career has been.
Yes.
We've really probably sold almost 50% pilots to feature films.
Yeah.
We decided that the payoff and the rewards from selling a feature film far outweigh for us the rewards that we've seen from television, and that the frustrations that come into television creation far outweigh the frustrations that come into expecting a movie.
Yeah.
So we decided we were going to go down to one TV.
We used to have two TV development teams.
We had three positions at one point.
We had three positions at one point. So now we're down to one. I think we're going to stay in that place. And I would still really like that. I think that
but it's hard. I guess the reason I bring it up is it's hard to have a benchmark that you're not working 100% towards.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Sure.
You can't have a drive and then not do anything about it.
Mm.
Like if our drive, like when we were in the early days, and we were talking about this morning, every hour we were only working on one script at a time. It's all the time we had. We both worked multiple support jobs,
Right.
and we had 2-3 hours maybe that we could squeeze in here and squeeze in there. Every single hour was dedicated to writing that script.
It was,
because we believed in that script, and so all of our energy, all of our creative energy, all of our business ambition, perseverance, everything was focused, laser focused. And as you get more time and as you have a career, you realize you have to juggle projects or you never sustain that career. It becomes slightly less focused.
It does.
But if our goal was to get a TV show made, in that being the next benchmark of my career, then all we should be doing is writing pilots.
Right, of course. And it's not. And it's not.
All
right, look, let's jump into our project. That was a very good little chat for us this morning. While you're opening that up, I'll have just a quick look and just say thank you to everyone who's been watching on YouTube. Last month we had 40 new subscribers. We had 3,197 total views, which was awesome, and almost 24,000 minutes of our show watched. So thank you so much to everybody who's been watching and supporting us. We really appreciate it. We hope you're finding it useful. We had a little comment from Michael earlier. He says, "Love your show. You guys are great." Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
We're just again. Like this is what it looks like when we were working this morning. This is what we do. Every day. I know I mentioned it earlier. I'm so excited about that project too. Since we had that moment last year of going, that idea is brilliant. I haven't been able to get it out of my mind, so I'm really excited about that one too. And also, I'm excited about Hellfire.
Yeah. So Hellfire it is, and here we are. We talked yesterday about Hank.
Yeah.
And we decided at the end of the day that Hank actually is not going to be in Act 1. That Hank is a guy who is a demon hunter, very much the way that we've conceived of him right now. Maybe a little bit older, but a younger Jeff Bridges demon hunter.
Yes.
And that he and Lilith have a past relationship.
Yes.
They, perhaps 20 years ago even, came across each other. Lilith trying to live out her life as a non-demon, and yet no matter what, she still has demon energy with her. And our young Jeff Bridges, Hank, hunting her down. Somehow, and we have not broken this story idea yet, but somehow they came to a truce. Somehow they decided, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. And it probably comes to the idea that Jeff Bridges realized that Lilith wasn't doing the typical evil demon things, and that Lilith could probably kill him.
Right. Or it might be a fair match. It
might be a fair match, yes. And Lilith probably was like, look, I'm not interested in killing you. If you want to hunt down other demons, it only helps me, because they might find me and I don't want to be found. Right. So they had mutual interests aligning.
Totally.
But they have gone their separate ways. I have a feeling they haven't seen each other.
Oh, I agree. In a very long time.
Very long time.
Yeah, totally.
And so we decided that after Act 1, after our fight with, who we're still calling Zod for some reason, after our fight, Lilith and Sam know they need help.
Yes.
Zod somehow will be able to find them. They are putting out demonic energy, and thus they need somewhere to hide. And Lilith goes, oh, fuck, I know somewhere to go.
Yes. Exactly. In fact, ultimately, it's the perfect place to go.
It is, because who's going to look at a demon hunter's lair for a demon?
Right. Yeah, indeed.
So we'll get to that. That's going to be Act 2. That's going to be in Act 2.1.
Yes.
Which
feels like where it should be in terms of, emotional structure. There are, again, it doesn't matter if you're following certain paradigms, but there are certain, structural paradigms which are like the first part of Act 2 is where your protagonist allies with people.
Yeah.
And it's when Luke Skywalker finds Han Solo and Chewbacca. It's when Neo meets the whole crew of the Nebuchadnezzar. It's all that kind of stuff. So
I'm going to copy this into a note, just so,
good idea.
So that it's there.
Yeah.
And we actually have. Now it is saved in this little note.
Okay. Yeah, we can't see that on screen.
You can't see. Can you see the yellow though? Yeah, you see that a note is there. The note I've cut and pasted it into that screen.
Okay, then. So the last story moments that we'd had were Sam not explodes, but has her release of demonic energy.
Yeah.
The shockwave travels out from Portland in all directions. We'll decide how we want to see that. We're in Lilith's apartment at night. She's about to leave for the date with the guy who she had met the day before, when suddenly she's hit by the shockwave, passes out on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
We then go have a moment at the coffee shop. Guy's waiting. Lilith is a no-show, checking his watch. He leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? Then where are we? To where we are.
So that's a good question. So, all right. My initial instinct is, because this is rather short, that we can stay with Lilith when we jump to the next morning and find her waking up on the floor. In the same way, only it's not the boyfriend finding her wake up on the floor. It's her finding herself woken up on the floor going, what the fuck just happened? And I guess the question becomes, what does she think just happened?
Yeah.
The other direction that we can go is Sam also just tore up her house. Her kids and her husband drove away. She was drunk, and she too let out a shockwave, probably passing out. And I just want to say, I think she passes out too. So also, she can wake up on the floor. Yeah. Now, the question is, for this next section, are we going to cut back and forth frequently? Are we going to see what's happening?
I'm just going to try and play it through in my mind. Now, we have this thing, the way that Lilith is able to know where she's going. We have this section down here in the bookstore, which is after... Yes, that there. So this currently reads interior bookstore day. Lilith is in the back room. She's sketching furiously. Scroll back up, sorry. She's sketching furiously the images from her visions. One is a face. It's Sam. The next is a church, and so on. She smells sulfur. She asks the cashier if she can smell the same. The girl doesn't, and it's really strong. So this is when she's going to then go to...
we see a demon for the first time.
We see
not for the first time, but in Lilith's world, there's
in Lilith's regular world. Yeah.
Obviously, we would need her to wake up first.
Yes.
And I will also say, we'll have to address the guy again. What's interesting about the guy is he actually is a nice replacement for this family, in the sense of someone that Lilith actually does care about. So if we wanted to keep this,
we can do
the stakes of Zod kidnapping him and is going to kill him or something like that. I mean, there's something fun about.
Perhaps, we had also discussed, now that Sam has a family, that is it stronger if it's Sam's family?
And it might be, but there's just, as I'm thinking about it, I'm going, I like the damsel in distress being the guy instead.
Yeah, sure, it's interesting.
There's something kind of flipping that I quite like. But regardless, I do think that there just needs to be a beat before we leave here, before Lilith goes on her journey to go and kill Sam. She should either run into him and it's awkward and embarrassing, or he should come to check up on her and say, hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Or it could be a text message, whatever it is. I want to address the fact that she stood him up.
Yeah.
At some point. It doesn't have to be right now.
Yeah, cool. That's good.
The other thing is Sam's life. We need to address her wanting her kids back.
Yeah.
She can't just give up.
No, she doesn't just shrug and go, okay, that's that.
So she needs to have a phone call with her husband going, I fucked up. I'm sorry. What can I do? And maybe that's what leads her to the AA meeting. You know, like she needs to have a moment of trying, but then again failing. Like she could be, for example, she could be on the phone with her husband, and he could be going, I'm sorry, I fucked up," and then he could say something that triggers her, and she goes, "You know what? That's not fucking fair." Da, 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 and he just hangs up.
Yeah.
You know, like she doesn't win.
Yeah.
She hasn't changed yet.
Yeah.
Her pride and her ego and her anger and all that is still very much living inside of her.
Yeah. Now, in terms though of time, as I'm just kind of trying to break it down, it doesn't have to be the same meeting, but I liked what we have in the early drafts of this outline, which is Lilith follows Sam to an AA meeting.
Sure.
Which is why she doesn't kill her straight away.
Sure.
Because she sees that there is something in this woman that is actually good, which is unexpected for her. So again, I'm just trying to like place the order of events in time. There is for Lilith rather an urgency now. Something's happened. This thing has happened. Oh my goodness. The time that I've known about for Tempus Immemoria has arrived now. And
let's be clear. She wakes up in the morning, she goes to work, she sees a demon, she knows what she felt is real, and what does? She gets on a fucking plane. I mean, like, there's no time, I think.
No, sure, yeah. It's about momentum, is what I'm talking about. It's like once
I think this can all be the same day.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, I agree. Yeah.
That night, Sam goes to an AA meeting.
Yes.
She wakes up in the morning having passed out. She talks to her husband during the day.
Right.
I don't know how to fucking help you. They get into another fight.
Yeah.
And what does she do? She goes to an AA meeting that night because she knows she does need to do something if she's ever going to get her kids back.
Right. Okay. All right. So order of events. I think we need to put that Sam blacks out in
I did.
It to be great. Fantastic. That's good. Well done. Lilith is a no-show. Boom. Then I think we go Sam's apartment morning. She wakes up. She's dazed. She's confused. She thinks maybe she just passed out from being drunk, whatever it is, or being overly like she's not like, oh, I'm taking myself to hospital or anything. I think she's.
Does she see the beginning of the morning?
Well, that's where I was going to go next. I don't think she does. I think maybe we do. I was going to say, like, do we see her have a shower? And she's like itching on her back and she can't quite reach what it is. And we see this thing, the starts of this thing on her back, or wherever it is. If it's somewhere she can see, then obviously she can see too. What the hell is that?
Yeah, where do we think it is? What's cool? The back is not visible most of the time.
Sure. I go back right shoulder personally.
I know, but what I'm saying is it's not visible most of the time. She's not going to be shirtless for very much of this movie. So
and you want it
and I want to see it getting darker and more full, and I want it I want it to be there's a visual representation of the movement of time and ticking clock that we've created through this scar-like tattoo.
Is there, and again I'm wearing a t-shirt right now, but could it be like directly over her heart, where if she was wearing a top like that? Here's the thing. The mark of Cain, when they did it on Supernatural, was, I think, on the inside arm. I'll double check.
Okay.
But that's what they did there. So I just don't want to copy that. Partly. Again, is anyone making the comp? Not necessarily, but it was on the inside of the right arm.
On the forearm.
On the forearm. Yeah. So I just think it should be somewhere else.
I mean, obviously, it's not going to be on her face.
It's not going to be on just over her face.
Is it like right on the
back of her
neck, like right at the kind of base of her hairline?
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
And then, like you said, she could be like scratching at it, and we don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've gotten bitten, but actually it's not that.
Sure.
that
Yeah,
kind of
someone
thing.
calls it out during the day. What's that?
Just something so that when the camera's behind her every once in a while, we get a glimpse.
Totally, yeah, and our other characters, and that, you know, Lilith and
It's
Hank.
easy to trace it, because otherwise she's going to be, hey, show me the mark. Okay, like every, you know, like, no, I actually want to be able to very easily track the growth of this thing.
Great. Okay, sounds good.
So that's fine. So we'll go to interior Sam's home. Sam's house, and it's going to be morning, I guess, or dawn. It should be like really fucking early morning, like dawn. Which, by the way, some people like using dawn, some people don't. Jake and I only partially disagree on this thing. I like it, and I think, Jake, you go along with it because it technically is different lighting.
Yeah,
there's a different lighting for dawn than morning.
I'm fine with 4 headings in slug lines: day, night, dawn, and dusk.
And morning continuous.
Morning does, yeah, obviously continuous.
And late,
yeah. Morning doesn't do anything for me. I came across the script that had loads of mornings, and I'm like, what? How do I know? I could be looking out right now, and it could be morning if you didn't know which way was east. You know, it's daylight.
I mean, technically speaking, I mean, let's be clear that actually that's not true. If you were a lighting person, you would light morning different than you would light afternoon. The sun would literally be coming from a different direction.
It would be coming from a different direction.
And shadows would be different. And depending on what part of day, you would have more light versus less light.
Sure. Occasionally in a script, you might see golden hour. You know,
golden showers. But
different kinds of movies, Ben.
Different kinds of movies. I guess my point is, like, if you were, we've used morning and afternoon in scripts in the past.
I don't think we have. I think you're making that up.
I would bet you $1,000 that I could find one in one of our scripts.
I don't think any of our current scripts we would.
Maybe not the ones we're working on today.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well,
but over the last 13 years.
To be continued. We'll see. We'll see.
You're going to take that bet?
Not for $1,000, I won't.
Come on.
It would have been you.
But I think that sometimes people use scene headings to show a passage of time. So, for example, there is a, and we just looked at this in a script that we are producing, whereby the writer uses same. I didn't quite understand why the same was there, but I can understand from a certain degree that, it is at the same time. And so if you're tracking...
Because, again, coming to something we talked about the other day, on screen, how are you going to show the passage of time? How are you going, like if you had scene that was set day and next scene that was set day, but it was the next day, how would you show the viewer that the day had changed if that was important to your story?
Yeah.
Dawn is one way of doing it. Seeing the sunrise over the horizon is one way of going, I'm in a different day now.
But so is, and this is the thing, I would argue that so is morning. And I do actually think that there is a feeling about morning that is different. When I go out to take my daughter to school and it's 8:30 in the morning, that's not dawn. I can't write that as dawn.
No.
That would make no sense at all. But it absolutely feels different than day.
On screen, what you would do is you would say, Ben glances down at the clock. It shows 8:30. That's how you show it.
No, you wouldn't. That'd be terrible writing. No, it's just honestly, like, if I'm walking out, I don't look at the clock every time I leave the door, but I guarantee you that if you leave my house in the morning and you leave my house in the afternoon, it will look and feel completely different visually.
Well, yeah, I 100% don't agree, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, not everyone agrees. And again, I bet you $1,000 we've done it before.
We'll see.
So anyway, in this particular case, I don't need to argue the morning
Yeah,
argument
I
because
think
it
Dawn is
is
great.
gone.
She's waking up, the sun's just creeping through the blinds.
Yes.
You know.
So
that would be a way that on screen that you would see that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly enough, if you wrote morning, you could also say the sun is just starting to peek through the blinds, and that would work as well.
This is guys and girls watching and listening. This is what I have to put up with.
I actually would wager to say that in a script about 5 or 6 years ago, we would have even used late afternoon. But I bet we have.
4:30 p.m. Sam's house. 4:30 p.m.
Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, fellow screenwriters. There's no fucking rules. You want to use morning? Use fucking morning. It's your choice. I have to deal with a partner, and so we have to choose together. You don't. So anyway, Sam's house. She wakes up.
Yeah, she wakes up. She
kind of did she bang? Maybe she banged her head.
Maybe, well, I'm thinking that Lilith should have banged her because she probably fell on the concrete if she's outside her place.
She's not, is she?
She's not.
Yeah,
she's in her apartment. Okay, so yes, Sam can have.
Wakes up.
Yeah,
you know, she hit her head. She goes to take, Advil for both her headache and her hangover.
Yeah.
And itches the back of her neck.
Mm-hmm. Ben.
Yes.
You win the bet.
You're not going to pay me $1,000?
I didn't say, and I've got it. It's been recorded in Winter's Night in the 2014 version on page 4. Exterior, valley, morning.
I'll actually even up that bet and say that we did it in a script 2 years ago.
What script?
Well, I'm not going to name the title because it's still in development.
Okay, got it. Okay, all right. Yep, I know the one you mean.
But I would wager $2,000 that a morning or an afternoon is in that script.
I bet you're right. I bet you're right.
So, itches the back of her neck. A mark, the beginnings of the mark of Cain.
Sure.
Is there that wasn't before. We see it.
You're right.
$2,000. $2,000.
Easy money right there.
Anyway, I'll gloat in my rightness for a moment. And,
but it's also interesting to see how your own personal tastes change, because I wouldn't write that in a script now. It's interesting. I just wouldn't. Anyway.
But here's the thing. If I wrote it in a scene, you probably wouldn't change it either. And that's probably what happens.
Sure.
Like, and it's because I believe it still creates the picture that you want created. And that's what's important.
Right.
There are times where you go, like, you're not going to put, like, again, late afternoon is unnecessary. And we have done that in the past. But if for some reason it's really important,
sure,
there is a difference in lighting for that as well. And ultimately, and I think this is the important part of this conversation, it is about creating a picture. And as I was trying to say, when I walk out my house in the morning, it is very different of a picture in my mind than it is during the day or at dawn. And I've walked out the front door at all those times, and the visual is different. Even with the same car is in the driveway, the same tree is in the shot, but they all look different.
Sure. I guess the question is it important to your story? And is the viewer,
is it important
shot, going to understand?
Is it important to the picture you're trying to take? If you're, if you're writing a scene where your character is taking their kids to school and you wrote day, I might go, well, what time do they start school? But I don't need to say the clock if I write morning, and I get it. Anyway, let's continue with this.
Let's continue.
So we see it. She doesn't. Anything else need to happen in this beat? Right to Lilith waking up at the same time. This shockwave has joined them. I feel like this is the first moment.
I think she needs to call her husband or someone.
I do too.
I don't think her husband
needs to happen in this. You think it has to happen now? At dawn?
So the previous night, her husband walked out and took the kids with him.
Right, but it's like 5 o'clock in the morning right now.
Right, yeah, she probably wouldn't call him at 5 o'clock in the morning.
But
might she text him? Might she do something?
Yeah, I guess she could text him and say, we need to talk. Let's talk, or I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
She texts, I forget husband's name.
Larry.
Sorry. Let's talk.
Yeah.
But then I think we actually, unless there's something about unless we need to see what this mark has done, which I don't think it's actually caused a personality change.
No.
Yet.
No, I agree.
I think we're out.
Yeah, I agree.
Cut to Lilith now.
Lilith, absolutely right. Yes.
So, and it's the same Lilith's apartment. Only here's the thing. Lilith, now I'm going to go, morning.
And also because she's slightly further east, it is morning for her.
See, logically, it makes sense. I win. If anyone doesn't know this, I love to gloat. I don't get that many opportunities.
He doesn't, to be fair. He's not right that often. So
when I can, I have to. So Lilith also wakes up. But she doesn't know for certain. But she should be suspicious.
Can she start doing the drawing straight away here? I don't think she has to do it later. She just starts to kind of like she's had these visions while she's been asleep, while she's been unconscious. She grabs a thing and she just starts to draw. We don't really see what she's drawing,
Wait, am I confused? She's sketching furiously images from her visions. Did we ever have her have visions?
I don't think we've seen that she has visions. So the question, I suppose, is have we had moments of those visions? Does she start to sketch and draw? Okay, does she wake up, go, what the hell was that? Sees a flash of something, and she's like, she says another thing. It could be Sam. It could be church. It could be the Mark of Cain. And she just starts to draw them down.
Here's my question. It's a lore thing, so...
Yeah.
It might be a longer conversation than the 2 minutes that we have left.
Yeah.
Why does she have these visions? And if she has them, does every other demon?
And has she ever had them before?
Is this specific? Is she she's a psychic demon? Like, I know why we put them in here, because we needed a way for her to find Sam.
Correct.
But I'm confused in this moment as to, is this a specific to Lilith trait, which it could be. Different demons can have different powers, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But I go, well, I don't know this from before.
It's a good question. I mean, the questions for me go, has this ever happened before? If so, why?
I need to know pre this moment that she can do this. If this is something that I'm going to take seriously, I want to know that Lilith, maybe it's just since she's been on Earth for the last 100 years, she started having visions of that it's something about the demonic energy affects her in a different way. I don't know what it is, but if this is specific to her, because I don't think it's every demon. I don't think it's every single demon out there has visions of Sam. at this moment.
Mm.
So if it's specific to her, I need to know that it's specific to her. And there's different ways that we can do that.
We could write it in subtitles on the bottom of the screen.
This is specific to me.
We may have to answer this question tomorrow because we're about to hit an hour. So visions. Has she had them before? If so, how? Why? Etc.
Specific.
Yeah.
Oops.
It's all right. Writing is hard.
Specific to Lilith.
Yep.
Or
is it a general demonic thing?
Don't think it's general.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
Again, twice in 1 hour. Jesus, you're on a roll.
It's not the same kind of being right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good All right, great
stuff today, dudes. We'll keep cracking on it.
Yeah, no.
Watching everybody. If you haven't already on YouTube, please go and subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching, this actually appears on our Twitter walls.
It does feeds. Twitter feeds.
As well.
Or on
if
Facebook.
you are watching on Twitter, that's great. Thank you so much. Just head over to YouTube really quickly.
And if you want to listen because you can't and don't have time to watch us, and you are going to miss out on our handsome faces, you can always listen on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I should say, or on Spotify. We are on both. And we've gotten a nice little listening group as well. People are listening, so we're really thankful for this little community that has been keep watching us make fools of ourselves and argue tomorrow when we will have the Parlipenades brothers.
Oh, that's tomorrow, isn't it? Yes. Well, we have Lass and Charlie coming tomorrow. I'll tweet about that as well. But they created Blood of Use, and I wrote the movie.
It's going to be awesome. All right, everybody, have a good one.